When I started to look into doing a podcast, I knew I had a lot to share and say, and I wanted to do it in an audio format. I was a little intimidated, not going to lie, about how I was going to go about recording and editing and distributing and all those things because technology is not my strong suit. Naturally, I can learn things. And so when I started to take webinars and ask questions on Facebook and other platforms, I decided that Anchor was the best way to go. It's been a bit of a one-stop shop for me. I can record all of my episodes, I can edit them. It's been really nice because it's free. And when I started to do a podcast, it was, okay, how am I going to rebuild my practice? I had to close my practice down because of COVID, federal mandate. So how was I going to rebuild things? How was I going to give myself something to do? Because this defines me. What I do, it defines me. So I really needed an outlet, and the budget was like nothing. So having this free option has been great. I am recording on my laptop, but I can also record on my phone if I decide that's a way to go, or maybe I don't have my laptop on me. And so that's pretty exciting to know I can do it from there too. They also take and distribute to various apps for people to listen on, which again, that is taking one stressor away from me so I can focus on my content. And if it's something you'd like to do, if you have something you'd like to say, I can't recommend it enough for somebody who's a newbie and starting out. And I feel like even if I wasn't, new at this, it's been something I've been doing for a while, I would still like this platform because of the ease of everything. So if it is something you'd like to look into, you can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. That's ANCHOR.fm to get started. Welcome to the Infinite Dance. I'm your host, Carri Arata. Welcome back to all of you that have been tuning in, and welcome if you are brand new to the show. I'm so glad you're here, and I want to start off with some deep, deep, deep gratitude for all the people that have been tuning in. In fact, it's pretty exciting. There are people tuning in 21 different countries. 21. That's so exciting. So I'm going to shout out to all the different countries of people tuning in because this is so exciting to me. So we have the United States, Australia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, Mexico, India, New Zealand, Brazil, Bangladesh, Spain, Mauritius, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correct, Slovakia, Norway, Netherlands, Argentina, France, and lastly but not least, Portugal. So thank you so, so much for all of you that have been tuning in. Means the world to me. This has just been such a passionate, filled project for me to do. So I really appreciate having an audience. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. So we're talking about Litha, or summer solstice, midsummer, Father's Day, and Juneteenth, which is all happening this week in our jam-packed June. Whoa. June is I just can't believe how much has been going on. And it feels really buzzy, those eclipses, the lunar right before June, and then the solar. Just last week, lots of buzzing feeling, which I'm really enjoying. But I have got to admit, I have had to take some time to just sit and be. And I really kind of have to go, all right, you're a little tired. Don't go back to sleep. Like, kind of just be awake and let yourself just kind of be a little bit more still. And I think that's really fitting as we go into and embrace summer solstice and Litha. And I'll go into that. Let's first start off talking about Juneteenth. So, Juneteenth happens on June 19th. And, of course, it's the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, in case you don't know or haven't heard about that. And it's so wonderful that there's a day to celebrate freedom from such a major atrocity in our human history. I'm always mind blown at the absolute mentally insane when I tap into the energy of those that wanted to keep slavery around or started it. It's something that is just hard to grasp. And when I do tap into the energy, I of those that felt they should take away somebody's free will to be. I mean, that's why we come here, and our souls come into a human form so we can have this free will experience in a body. And the fact that some feel that they can take that away, that they have the right to do that. Wow. That's, I just don't understand that kind of mentality. So I do try to tap in, so I go, where in the heck is this coming from? Because it's so foreign to how I feel, just in general. And when I do, I have to admit it's a little hard to stay there for too long. And I get images of shapes that are obtuse or not quite, they're not in alignment at all. And it's like the top of a diamond is really tiny and it's kind of off to one side, and then it comes down and it's really like big and bulbous, and then it kind of makes this odd shape and comes back down to the other point, the bottom point of like a diamond shape, let's say. And it's just, if the facets on there, it's like some are really big, some are really small. And again, I already kind of said that these individuals come across as mentally and malevolently narcissistic. So we're talking sociopath, psychopath, status. That's what the energy is coming through. And when I tap into it, as far as, and there's almost like this zombie-like energy, there's just no heart. There's just kind of in this, not even robotic. It's more on this zombie of, like, they couldn't. It's just so bizarre. But Akashic, in an Akashic sense. So that's coming through. So again, I'm talking about somebody who would be a slave owner of a generational curse of hate, of course, is coming through. And like mental insanity. It got stuck at this generational level. That's what's coming through when I tap in to this, and I wanted to get a more of an Akashic view. And I commend anybody who has started to change this in years past from their generation, their family line, noticing it and going, it's not going to continue. And there's still so much unpacking that we need to do as a society, in a group of people, as a collective. And I can only hope for a continued reversing of this generational sickness that's gone on, and that it'll go away. Because again, we're here to experience free will in our being, in a human form. So the fact that another human would want to take that away, feel entitled to take that away, just, it doesn't make any sense for a human existence. So if there is a Juneteenth festival or celebration in your area, I hope you can find one. And that is my take, Akashically, on how that something so awful was so rampant, right? It's just so heavy. It's so heavy to even and that fear, right? It's like it almost drips off images. Like when I get images of the energy of slave owners, like it's just like this fear drips off of them. It's so icky. So I don't want to stay there very much longer. What's very interesting, let's move on to Litha and tie in though with the Juneteenth, is with summer solstice energy that we have coming up. So Juneteenth is the 19th and Litha is the 20th. And Litha is the pagan reference of summer solstice. And of course, it's the longest day of the year. And when I tap into this energy, what I get is longer days means we have more time to do, quote unquote. But then we also have, that means to me, we also have more time to be, quote unquote. And this is really a nice time to find the balance, of course, between fire and water. Okay, two extremes. And there's a great quote I found, and I'm just going to read it to you because it was a really nice quote on Litha. And this one is by Sage Goddess, and you can follow her on Insta, or she has a website, sagegoddess.com. So I'm going to read the entire quote. So this is the beginning of this quote on Litha. We experience the longest day of the year. The sun reaches the apex of his power, summiting to his highest point in the sky. His warmth stretches to the farthest reaches of the North Pole, bringing light to the darkness. It is the divine midpoint of our year, the tipping point between light and dark, fire and water, past and future. The sun will begin his journey south, ever so slowly shortening the days. Litha is a celebration of life, growth, and creativity. This is a time to strike a balance between fire and water in order to sustain you on your journey through the remaining half of the year. End quote. And again, that's Sage Goddess. And I really like that. Really summed up what I feel when I celebrate solstice. I also like to add that it's a time where the sun, it actually pauses. So it pauses its northward motion before it heads south. And I think that's a really great thing to do, is to pause and reflect, right? Because we're looking into the past. So again, having a celebration of the emancipation of enslaved African Americans right on this, the day before the solstice happens, that we could really look into the past and, kind of come face to face with this awful energy and these atrocities, to never ever have them happen again. And that would be my hope. But then with a fire, the summer solstice and the sun, and reaching that balance. And there's so much fire energy though too, and burning away of old. And a lot of times these celebrations are celebrated with bonfires. And I think that's really fitting to offer up and transmute these old energies, so that we can all write what this future is that we have in front of us. This clean slate I've talked about in episodes past. We get this clean slate to begin this new collective ways. And that's exciting to me. That's really exciting that we get to define what it is. And the heart, the heart-based, I laughed because I also heard Heart Squad. And I know there's another reader that uses that in her, and it wasn't the same necessarily. I believe she is Amanda Ellis, and she channels a lot of times passed on celebrities that come to her with, or people that have been famous, and she calls them the Heart Squad, and they're fantastic channelings, and she's really awesome. But the term Heart Squad came so almost like this heart-based group leading the way. And I like that. I like the fact that we'll have more of a heart-based leading in how we define the future. We get, when we're still too, if we mimic and kind of flow with the energies of the solstice, Litha, midsummer, and we get to bask in this stillness. And you really can start to realize what you gain when you take a pause. You're really kind of able to see all the pieces, parts maybe a little bit clearer, almost like they're right there out in front of you, and they're kind of suspended, right? Like suspended, like all your ideas or things, the to-dos, maybe they're projects, or places to go or see, and see those right in front of you. And be able to get some clarity on organizing. When I think of Litha too, I see an orange. So another image that comes is an orange, a piece of fruit being opened, right? How you start to peel back the rind. And it's very vivid, the spray that comes on a really good orange of its juices. And that really represents an overflowing sense of hope and possibilities. And that scent that comes to that uplifting, crisp, like exhale, right? That's, to me, that scent really has me go, when I smell it and when I think about it and get the image, I see all of that, and it's so wonderful. And when we tap into, of course, the burning away of the old, right? So that these new ways of being, not, all right, let's try this. It's a have to. And that's why there's so much fire. And I know I'm in a fire season area right now where I live. Anybody else who's listening, if you are too, I am keeping you in my thoughts. Also, because it's so scary. If you've ever lived in an area that has fire seasons and gets really hot and dry and windy, it can be really scary. And I really hope we get a balance. This water element part can really come. Big downpours of rain cooling it. Because I know where I live in Northern California, Nevada, the winter was not our normal winter. It was definitely a drier winter. So that's a Litha and an Akashic take with imagery and the chance to pause, right? Check out where we are coming from as we move forward in this have to movement. There's no choice. I really, as I was talking about very well, the change though is so needed that it's almost like this heart-based choice is like, why would you choose another one? Okay, so it's not that there's not a choice, and I'm not saying that. But when you tap into, well, why wouldn't I come from this purer, kinder, more compassionate, empathetic place with myself and with those around me? And before I go on and talk about Father's Day, which happens on the same day, it's just interesting that we have this compassion, and I really feel we're feeling this fire energy. And I've heard other fire buzzing, ring of fire with the eclipse, but we're really getting this. Okay, here's a situation where you're gonna have to be your own advocate, right? Like, I need this to happen. And you kind of see it all kind of lined up. And it's almost, again, I'm getting these. This one wasn't physical. Like I had talked about a knee-jerk reaction a couple episodes ago. But it's almost like it's a knee-jerk reaction to advocate for yourself of your needs. So whether you're with family, friends, or around people maybe you don't know so well, kind of really speaking up. And if you're not used to doing that, it feels weird, right? It feels like, oh my God, and I did it the other day. I was vending at an event, and I got there about the normal time I usually get there. And there was a lot more spots open than I thought, though. And so I took a spot that I was near, kind of where I always kind of do. It's not super designated, but you kind of know the area-ish where you kind of vend. And so I got in this one area by these folks that I vend by, and this other gal came, and she wanted to squeeze in between us. And I was like, oh no, there's a ton of room, like right there next on the other side. You don't have to squeeze in. And she was like, no, she was kind of really insistent. And I was like, I remember thinking, well, why can't she just go to the other side? And I kind of said something. I'm like, I'm not sure, why you couldn't just go to the other side. I really, don't want to be on a lopsided or pushed in the corner. And then I even gave my whole little situation doing this a scenario or a title, like don't push baby in the corner, right? And it made me laugh because I thought of Dirty Dancing. But I also was like, well, I don't need to do that though. Like, I don't need to call it something like I'm having a don't push baby in the corner moment. Like, I could just be like, hey, I want to not be shoved to the side. I want to make sure I'm seen or I'm not looked over, because I don't have the biggest display. I mean, I have my banners and stuff like that, but my actual product I sell is not like, it's not huge, and there's not like a million pieces of it, right? So I just didn't want to get put in the corner, but I wasn't being very compassionate to myself, and it was kind of like, oh my God, I'm speaking up. Even though I wasn't being mean, but I was really kind of speaking my truth, like I don't want to be pushed in the corner. And I had to give it a title. And I think it's okay for us to say, hey, I don't want to go over there, and I ended up, she ended up squeezing in between. It was fine. But I really feel it was a chance for me to be gentle with myself too. And go, no, it's okay to speak up and say your piece. I wasn't being mean. And I even helped her put her tent up, so it's not like I was having any hard feelings. I think it was more being hard on myself. But being an advocate, and then the compassion right away, right? Not lingering with an old story of, oh, I shouldn't give myself this space, or I don't deserve it, or I shouldn't have to speak up about something like this, right? Because it's my business. And I like what I create. I love what I create, actually. I love making them. My Infinite Pillows is what I vend. Those buckwheat hull filled pillows for support while you sleep, sit, do yoga on a long plane ride, in a long car ride. There's infinite ways to use the Infinite Pillow. And so, yeah, I just enjoy that. I've always enjoyed sewing, and I just enjoy doing something that I've benefited from for over 20 years now, using a pillow like this, and then also supplying them for my clients when they come see me. So that's just been really fun to create and vend. So anyways, there's a little personal story, and seeing that kind of chance and opportunity, and it's coming up real quick. it's not wasting time. Like, let's transmute this, right? Let's get this rolling. So Father's Day is the same day, again, as Litha, and happy Father's Day to all of those out there. And what came through, and we've all been hearing this buzz of toxic masculinity, and what defines toxic masculinity, how we can embrace more masculine traits without it being dominating and aggressive only, right? Like, again, this old thoughts that, there's no way, when I tap in again and come from an Akashic place and a soul's history, this is stuff that just got stuck at a cellular level for generation after generation after generation. And we all kind of ate it at some level. Even those of us that are like, no. You think of certain ways of speaking or ways of thinking or societal norms that fall within this. We all kind of got behind in some way, shape, or form. It's just weird. when I think of all the different times, I was like, why did I, what? Even if I kind of questioned something or was like, no, it wasn't like I followed through with that questioning. I just kind of like accepted, and it's just weird. I just think it's just weird that we collectively did this more. But what's cool is that we're saying no more. And that, if you are identifying as male or masculine, that you can't emote or you shouldn't emote. Express emotions openly. Oh. Just an icky place to be in. I know I'm kind of taking these to a little bit of a darker place. But recognizing those darker places within these times we're celebrating, a father figure, emancipation of African American slaves, we could take these celebrations, right? And really kind of go, yes, I'm going to celebrate this hopeful future, because we really are waking so up from a collective. I'm getting loss of soul facets, right? So like there's facets we weren't even able to access. So it's like, well, you didn't even have access to that knowledge or that area of soul history or soul knowing. Anyways, I'm so happy that there's an uncovering of that or a regaining of those facets because of all the work that so many are doing. So many are doing so much soul work, and I commend each and every one of you, whatever part of the journey you're on. Pat yourself on the back. I am rooting for you, and I am so kudos to you for taking the time to do all of that, because we are all going to be so much better for it. And as a collective, we really deserve to have each other be more awakened to each other's journey, past, present, and future. We need to know. So if you do have a story and you are telling it, or you want to start telling it, I really encourage you to. We all need to hear each other's journey stories. And if you have any stories you'd like to share on my podcast that would tie in with Akashic, soul history, I would love to hear them. And I would love to either read them anonymously, or, if you wanted to give your name, but if you wanted to email it in, I would love that. Archangel energy that came when I was prepping for this episode was Archangel Alexandra. Metatron is more commonly. And the archangels are more androgynous and kind of reaching for more of an androgynous reality. And Archangel Alexander, or more commonly known as Metatron, has that very strong presence, but very nurturing at the same time. And for me, Metatron comes as a strong feminine. Now, Metatron is commonly, a lot of people say he. So I encourage you to have your own relationship, though, with the archangels. It's going to tie into how you see and how you've experienced them throughout lifetimes. And when we do advocate for each other, for ourselves, we're really doing so much more too. We're really teaching each other, right? Teaching each other how to be around one another. And it's new. I think it's really new to speak up and it not be necessarily a conflict, right? Not that there's anything wrong with having a sense or a little bit of a conflict or a conflict, but to have something be stated and instantly kind of like, okay, work through. And that's a big teaching curve for all of us. So I hope that these messages that came through about this jam-packed June and this week that we have coming up, or we're in, I should say, will help with some clarity in your own journey, even if you're not however you celebrate any of these, or your knowledge of any of these holidays, celebrations, that you can have a little bit more of an Akashic view of them. And I think that can really bring us a little bit closer to of knowing each other's truths, because we all have soul history, and when we really start to listen to each other's stories, we can, we'll learn things that we didn't know, or see something we didn't see, and through somebody else's eyes. And that's such a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you are feeling so inspired, listener support helps keep this podcast going. I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/the Infinite Dance, and there's bonus episodes there. I also have a Facebook page called The Infinite Dance. Go ahead and send a request. I'd love to have you there. And that's a great place if you want to discuss things more from episodes, or inquire about more things, or send stories. Again, I'd love to hear more of your stories. And I also have an Instagram account. It is under my business account for my practice, called Ancient Body Works. And if you want a private reading, my website is ancientbodyworks.co. My books are opening. I still have some spots left at the end of June. And then I will open up for July. And every Wednesday, I do an Akashic guided meditation at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And they always include, or I'm making sure they include, breath work and tapping. So we go into a little breath work and tapping, and then we go into the guided meditation to gain clarity for that week. Maybe some calm. Those are, again, 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You could send me your email, and I'll send you the Zoom link if you would like to be a part of those. And my email address you can reach me at is Carri Arata. That's CarriLynnArata @gmail. So I would be more than happy to send you that Zoom link. It's by donation. Nobody's turned away though. So if funds are lacking, do not let that stop you. Please come. Still, all are welcome. And continue to peel back the layers, and continue to ask yourselves and each other, may I have this dance?